Good morning. As you know, my name is Anthony, and I'm happy to talk to you about a topic that has been floating around the sport world, in today's sport world, and that topic would be the use of steroids. When it comes to today's sport, nobody likes to see a record. Nobody wants to see the same thing over and over again. Everybody wants to see a record being broken, and like to see aggressiveness in players beyond a person's imagination. No one wants to see an average athlete do the same thing over and over again. And no one among us is an expert. Everybody wants to see something that's beyond our expectation and by any standards. Today I'm going to explain to you why anabolic steroids should be legalized for athletes. I'm going to talk about experts' view on why athletes should be able to use steroids, anabolic steroids that is, and the benefits of legalizing anabolic steroids. That brings us to the part where I explain my points. For those of you that don't know, anabolic means the building of body tissues such as muscle. Anabolic steroids are used in hospital every day to treat asthma and body and skin inflammation on the skin and other part of the body. Anabolic steroids help build tissue and increase body mass by acting like the body's natural hormone. However, steroids cannot improve an athlete's agility or skills. There are many factors that shapes an athlete and builds an athlete the way an athlete is, such as the genetics, the body size, the sex, the age, the diet, and most important, how hard the athlete himself trains. According to New York Department of Health, the number of athletes who abuse anabolic steroids is unknown. Many athlete associations ban their use, including the NFL, MLB, NCAA, and even the Olympics. So few athletes are willing to admit that they use these drugs. The NFL tests athletes for illegal use. Players who test positive face suspension, and upon testing positive the second time, are expelled from the league. The MLB are tested once a year, and either tested positive the second time. Well, the first time after you test first positive, they get suspended for 10 days, and if a player tested positive the second time, they can get suspended for up to a year with no pay. If someone that's taking steroids, if someone's taking steroids, it's unfair for the other athletes that are competing with the people taking steroids. Then we should talk about genetics, because some people have better genetics than other people do when it comes to certain sports. Like, for example, let's talk about Kobe Bryant, for example. He's a natural talent, meaning basketball was in his gene, not literally, but he was born to play basketball, compared to somebody else in the league that is not as good as Kobe Bryant. That is not fair. It's just like, it's the same thing as saying somebody that's taking steroids, it's not fair to people that's not taking steroids. It's just life. According to eatsteroids.com, it was revealed that the use of steroids among high school athletes is at an all-time high. This is the reason why fear has been raised in mind of the concerned officials that the temptation to take steroids could spiral within an athlete in a perpetual aim to become faster, stronger, and even bigger. According to the Huffington Post, the rate of steroid use for females playing high school basketball is 8.8%. Huffington Post also said 40 to 50% of high school and college athletes are using some sort of supplements with their workout. I'm pretty sure some of you guys in here play sport or some type of sport, and I'm pretty sure some of your coaches recommend that you take some type of supplements. Taking those type of supplements is just like taking steroids, because it's not natural, and taking those supplements is not illegal. And taking steroids is the same thing as taking those supplements, meaning like if you can take some supplements, you should be able to take steroids too. No matter what the law says, athletes are still going to take steroids. We already have testosterone in our body. We already have testosterone being produced in the body. Just taking steroids just makes us add more testosterone, making us train harder to be the best we could be. It should also be noted that anything in moderation is not bad. It's not bad at all, and same goes to steroids. If you take, there's different type of ways you can take steroids. Some people take steroids and overdose on it. That's when it becomes bad. That's when your body starts to react negatively to the steroids. But if you take a little bit of dose of it, it doesn't have any harm to your body. According to Norma Forst, professor of bioethics at University of Wisconsin, sport itself is far more dangerous, and we don't prohibit it. The number of deaths from playing professional football and college football are 50 to 100 times higher than even the white exaggeration about steroids. More people have died playing baseball than have died with the use of steroids. According to Julian Salvolet, professor of practical ethics at the University of Oxford, to say that we should reduce drugs in sport or eliminate them because they increase performance is simply like saying that we should eliminate alcohol from parties because they increase sociability. If steroids were legalized, the field would be more even because everybody would be on steroids and nobody would be being condemned of taking steroids and other people not taking steroids. The field would be more evenly spread out because everybody's going to be taking it. And the sport is going to be played at a much higher level, which the fans appreciate for paying to attend the sport. Painkillers and even caffeine can be classified as performance enhancement when it comes to sport. Yet no one could care a bit if you arrive in the office on a Monday with a coffee in your hand or having taken a painkiller. I have presented to you the reason why steroids should be legalized for athletes' purpose of use. I hope my presentation have changed the way some of you view steroids when it comes to the use of athletes. Just remember, too much of something is bad, especially when it comes to taking medicine. Like if you overdose on the medicine, it becomes bad for your body. Meaning if you take too much of the steroids, it becomes a health effect. It affects your health when it comes to being healthy. But if you take a little bit of it, it's not as bad as the media proclaim it is. Thank you.
So, Michael, could you share with us your thoughts on Anthony's speech?
I thought his claim was pretty clear. The only thing I thought that was bad was that he was kind of swaying the whole time, and he kind of got stuck on a few moments. But other than that, I understood him pretty clear, and his structure was pretty good.
Okay. Well, I think the claim is clear. I think you do a good job on that. I think you need to set up the structure a lot more clearly, though, in the body of the speech. I thought that was, in fact, problematic, and it would help at the end if you had a summary that reviewed what the points were that you were trying to make. There's some interesting information in the presentation. You've got a couple of statistical comparisons that I think are really designed to address a reservation issue that the audience might have. We don't really get much of a context as to why steroids were banned in the first place. You say it all has to do with the notion of fairness, and that may be the case, but since all the major sports leagues and all of the high school and college leagues prohibit it, it seems like the burden of proof is pretty heavy on you to show that it is in fact something that is not problematic, that it doesn't have negative consequences, and I think you need to have a stronger argument than you actually do. What you need to do, I think, is develop an argument that shows that the reservations that people have about steroids are widely exaggerated. You say that at the end, but the only comparison that we get is deaths. Okay, I'm not sure that death is the only standard by which we should measure the impact of some function, some item, some concept, for instance. I don't think, for instance, that if something is unfair or illegitimate, that death is really the only way to make a comparison. Or if it threatens somebody's health, I'm not sure that death has to be the standard by which we count somebody's health being threatened. And I don't think you give us enough context on the whole process for us to be able to reach the conclusion that you're reaching, that it's perfectly safe for people to use steroids within a reasonable amount of time. And by the way, how do you control what's a reasonable amount of time? If it's all about competitiveness and it's going to help people get better and faster and do the things that you say are so demanding, why would anybody limit themselves? I mean, the goal is to be the best. The notion that you say, oh, we can keep it reasonable and responsible. Well, how do you keep it reasonable and responsible if you know you're going to be better than the next guy if you take the steroids? It sounds to me like it's, what do you call it? It's like an arms race. Only different kinds of arms. You're talking about your biceps as opposed to, the missiles that you have and counting up the number of missiles that you have. So I think you need to develop that argument a little bit more. I've got to agree with Michael about the delivery. I think that there's really limited eye contact. Sometimes you're doing the swaying sort of thing. And I think your vocals need to be a lot stronger, although that is one thing that I think is working for the presentation. You do kind of convey some emotional involvement in the subject too. Pardon me. All right.